The Jack Benny program with the special guest stars Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Coleman, presented by Lucky Strike.
Mr. Benny takes a bath in this stuff every day, and he still don't look any younger. Well, I guess I better get his breakfast ready. Oh, good morning, boss.
Good morning.
I didn't know you were up yet. I was just getting ready to bring your breakfast up to your room.
Never mind, I'll eat right down here.
Okay. How'd you sleep last night?
How'd I sleep? I wish I knew. I'm gonna stop getting undressed in the dark.
Why?
I don't know whether I tossed and turned all night or I put my pajamas on backwards.
Go back to sleeping in nightgowns.
No. They always creep up on me. And when I wake up in the morning, I look like I'm wearing an old life preserver. What do you got all those books out for?
Oh, I had to take them off the shelf so I could clean them.
Oh, good. Rochester, how long did you boil this egg?
A minute and a half.
Minute and a half, is that all?
Yeah, when you told me you got them from a fire sale, I figured that's all they needed.
What's this?
Smoked ham, same sale.
What are you laughing at?
This bread was ridiculous. I had to scrape it before I put it in the toaster.
Well, they were all such bargains, I just couldn't turn them down.
Say, boss, if you tell me what time you'll be home from work this afternoon, I'll have your milk bath all ready for you.
No. After yesterday, I'm not going to take those baths anymore.
Well, I thought you enjoyed bathing in milk. What happened?
I splashed around so much, the milk turned to butter, and I could hardly get out of the tub. Rochester, from now on, let's go back to the plain, ordinary lavender bubble bath.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness, look what time it is. Rochester, I won't be able to finish my breakfast. I'll grab a bite to eat at the studio. Look, and if my director calls, tell him I'm on my way, will you?
Yes, sir. I better get these books put back. Let's see, this stack goes up here. You Can't Take It With You by Coleman and Hart. You Can't Take It With You by Coleman and Hart. You Can't Take It With You by Coleman and Hart. I'll Find a Way by Jack Benny. He Probably Will by Coleman and Hart. What's this? One of Mr. Benny's diaries. 1945. 1945. Yeah, one little peek won't hurt anybody. This page looks like it might be interesting. August 15th, 1945.
Dear Diary, tonight, my next-door neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Coleman, invited me to have dinner at their home. Ronnie and Benita were so thrilled that I accepted their invitation.
Mr. and Miss Ronald Coleman invited Mr. Benny to dinner? See, that's funny. I don't... Oh, yeah, now I remember. That's the day that Mr. and Mrs. Don Wilson and Miss Livingston were over here playing bridge. Mr. Benny,
Yeah?
don't forget you got a dinner appointment at 8 o'clock.
Yes, I know. I'll see.
A dinner appointment? Where are you going?
Oh, Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Coleman invited me to dinner tonight. They live next door, you know. Now,
You invited to the Colemans?
well, Well, what's so strange about that? We've been neighbors for a long, long time. Of course, for a while there, my success in pictures came between us, you know. I don't want to be late because they went through all that bother of sending me an invitation and everything. I don't want to keep them waiting.
Jack, you mean they sent you an invitation and they live right next door?
Well, that would be the dignified thing to do.
Jack, could I see that invitation you got from the Colemans?
Well, of course you can see it. Please. I wish Rochester wouldn't be so careless with my mail, too. I found that out on the back porch.
Dear Jack, glad to know you are back in America. Benita and I would love to have you for cocktails and dinner Sunday evening. We'll expect you around 8. Regards, Ronnie.
You satisfied?
Jack, what does he mean, back in America?
Well, for my trip. My trip last summer to Europe.
I still don't understand it.
What's there to understand? Look, I've been invited to some of the best homes in Beverly Hills. Well, I have.
No, Jack. Well, I just read in one of the columns that last week you were a guest at Gary Cooper's birthday party. Some guest. He was waiting on tables.
I just did that for a gag.
Gag, eh? Why did the people put tips under their plates?
Gag, too.
Then why'd you pick up the tips?
Because I can go along with a gag, sister. Should have heard I got screams. Every time I picked up a tip, they yelled. Funny.
Boss, you better hurry up. It's getting late.
The Colemans always dress for dinner, so lay out my white tie and tails.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's finish the game.
Okay.
I want to...
Boss, you better get going this day.
I think I'll be 5 minutes late. No, it'll make an impression on the Colemans. They're almost as nervous as I am.
Oh, Ronnie!
Yes, Benita, what is it?
Hey, don't you think it's time you put those stamps away and got dressed for dinner? You know, we have a guest for dinner tonight.
A guest tonight? Who?
Well, Jack, of course. Jack Wellington from London.
Yes, I forgot. Good old Wellington. Well, I'm glad you remembered to mail him the letter I wrote.
Well, I didn't, as a matter of fact. I couldn't find it anywhere. I think it must have blown out of the window or something. Anyhow, I phoned him instead.
Splendid, splendid.
So, don't you think you ought to get dressed?
Dressed? Oh, my dear, not for Wellington. These clothes are good enough for him. Besides, he hates anything formal.
I won't change either, then. But I do think this occasion calls for some champagne. Why don't you get some out, darling? Then we can use that lovely silver bucket Wellington gave us when we first got married. I'll go and get it. He'll be thrilled to see it again.
Yes, so will I.
What?
The comedian who lives next door borrowed it. No, Benita. There's no use getting upset. It seems he was giving a party for his sponsor and wanted to impress him.
Jack Benny serving champagne? I don't believe it.
You will if he's thoughtful enough to return our empty bottle.
You mean that he also...
And 3 trays of ice cubes.
Now, Ron, how could you encourage him like that?
Encourage him? My dear girl, I wasn't even here. He came in through the window, helped himself, and left a note.
We'll just have to use the other ice bucket, I suppose. I only hope things will be quiet over there while Wellington's here.
Why? Have they been noisy again?
Oh, my dear, this morning it was terrible. Mr. Benny was shouting at that valet of his. What's his name again? You know, it's the same as a city in England.
Liverpool?
No.
Southampton?
Manchester.
Manchester.
Manchester. Well, Mr. Benny was shouting at Manchester about his coffee was too weak. And Manchester was shouting back to say that he'd been telling him for years you're not supposed to use the coffee grounds more than once.
Yes, I've heard some of those sessions. But you know, they're mild when you compare them with that Frank Remley fellow. I remember years ago when he rang our front doorbell on the stroke of midnight to wish me a Happy New Year.
Well, I think that was rather nice.
On August the 5th?
Oh, that was a little odd.
Tell me, darling, does this Remley person have something to do with the Benny program?
Yes, I understand he's in the orchestra.
Oh, he's a musician.
No, he's just in the orchestra.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Coleman.
Oh, yes, Sherwood.
Mr. Jack Wellington has arrived.
Oh, good.
Fine,
Good.
just check on the dinner, will you,
Yes.
please, Sherwood? Ah, there he is.
Wellington, old boy. How are you?
Oh, I'm so glad to see you, Jack.
Good to see you too, dear.
Let me take your coat.
Oh, thank you. You know, I came straight from the club, so I hope you don't mind my being dressed like this.
Oh, of course not.
Much cozier as we are.
By the way, Ronnie, I was always under the impression that the part of Beverly Hills that you two live in was exclusively a residential area. And yet right next door to you, I notice there's quite a busy used car dealer.
Oh, no, there's Jack Benny's house. He tore up the front lawn and put in a parking lot.
You mean the fellow on the wireless?
Yes. Just the other night we tuned in on his program quite by accident, and it was the most...
Now, let's not talk about that before dinner. Come on, Wellington, come into the library and have a drink.
Good.
I want to hear all your news. How you found things on the continent, all about your Indian trip. Tell me now, how are things in the elephant set?
I had my usual bad luck in Pune, but that's rather a long story.
Well, we had the whole evening together, so let's have a cocktail first, shall we?
I should say so.
Benita. This is one of the glasses I sent you from Rangoon.
Dear, they're my most treasured possession.
You know, no one will believe us when I tell them that there are only 11 of those glasses in the entire world.
Well, it's absolutely true. The King of Siam has 5, and you have 6.
Oh.
Now, let me see if I can remember that recipe you brought back from Malaya.
There's a gentleman at the door, sir. Here's his card.
Card? Jack Benny.
Here. Oh, maybe he's come to return the ice bucket.
Well, Sherwood, tell Mr. Benny... Oh, tell him I'll call him tomorrow.
Just explain that we have a guest for dinner, and that'll take care of it.
Mrs. Coleman, he said you were expecting him for dinner.
Dinner? Benita, did you invite Jack Benny for dinner?
Well, no. Are you sure you didn't?
I'm positive. Show him in and set another place for dinner.
Yes, sir.
Now, let's get back to your recipe, Wellington. I think after a few drops.
Mr. and Mrs. Coleman are in the library. May I have your hat, sir?
Oh, yes. Oh, just a moment. Ronnie! So good to see you.
Well, it's good to see you, Jack.
Benita!
Oh, to see you. I mean, it's nice. It's nice.
What?
Well, I wanted to meet an old friend of ours, Mr. Jack Wellington. This is Mr. Benny.
I'm glad to meet you, Mr. Benny.
Well, I didn't expect anyone else here for dinner, but then that's just like the Colemans. Always room for one more. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, Jack, can I give you a cocktail?
No, thank you. I'll just sit here and read a magazine while you three go and get dressed.
No, my dear fellow. This is quite informal.
Informal? Ronnie, I can't tell you how happy I am to hear you say that. My shoes are killing me. Feels good.
Ronnie, I think I could use a cocktail.
Mr. Wellington, you're from England, aren't you?
Why, yes, as a matter of fact, I am.
And you were just about to tell us, how are things over there?
Oh, it's very exciting. The tourist season is in full swing, and Lance Olivier has just made a smashing success with his new film, Henry V.
Good. Well, I only hope I can get over there next year. I like to be there in the spring.
Oh, so do I. Everything looks so lovely in the spring. Do you remember the river at Pangbourne? Thank you, darling.
Ah, the Thames.
Yes, the jolly old Thames.
Yes.
You know, I always take them when my stomach is upset. Tim, come. That's it.
Have you read any good books lately?
Why, yes, dear. At your suggestion, I reread The Decline and Fall, and believe it or not, I found it even more absorbing the second time.
Well, I think that's often the way. I've just reread Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy, and it's very amusing.
Well, it's not funny enough for me. I like something more full-blooded. Now you take the old Greek tragedies. The torments of Oedipus, the vengeance of Electra, the agonies of Medea.
Have any of you noticed the frightful mess that little orphan Annie's been in lately? Yes, sir. Yep.
I think we have to
Yes, sir.
Yep.
You said it.
Dinner is served.
Thank you, Sherwood.
Shall we go into the dining room?
Come on, Jack.
Oh, I'm
It's a
hungry,
long
sir.
time since you've had dinner with us, Jack.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Benny.
Certainly was.
You want some more coffee?
No, thank you, dear. You know, that dinner was absolutely wonderful.
Well, I'm very glad you enjoyed it.
I have an idea. I shall go and find that bottle of old brandy.
Oh, good. I'll come and get the glasses. Help yourself to coffee, Mr. Benny.
Oh,
I believe I will have some.
Let me do it for you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. You know, Wellington, I thought it was awfully decent of you to say that you enjoyed the dinner tonight. But I did. Well, it was all right, but it seems to me that they could have had bigger chickens. That was squab.
Well, here we are.
Benita, where in the world is that bottle of brandy?
Oh, let me see.
It's on the lower shelf on the left. I remember it was right next to your ice bucket.
Oh, yes, here it is.
Benita, I was just telling Wellington here how much I enjoyed your squab. Good.
Here we are. Wellington, before you leave town, you ought to come down to the club and I'll play you a game of tennis.
Well, I'm afraid there's a tournament going on there right now, but we could go over to Bel Air.
Here you are.
Thank you, dear.
Mr. Benny.
Thank you.
Now, Ronnie, come on, let's have a toast.
Yes, a toast.
How did that speech go in Henry V?
Well, you mean once more onto the breach?
That's it.
And you, good yeoman, show us here the mettle of your posture.
I see you stand like greyhounds in the slips, training upon the start. The game's afoot. Follow your spirit. And upon this charge cry, God for Harry, England and St. George.
St. George!
Hooray!
That's what they did in the picture. I saw
Well, that makes us even with the King of Siam.
Say, how about a game of charades and liven things up?
Oh, I don't think so, Jack. It's getting a little late.
Oh, my goodness, I had no idea how late it was.
It is getting rather late.
Late? It's only 9:30. Yes, sir. Yep. Time marches on.
Yes, sir.
Yup.
Well, I guess I'd better be running along.
Oh, what a pity.
I'll get your coat.
Well, goodbye, Mr. Wellington. It was a pleasure.
Goodbye, Mr. Benny, and with my luck, we'll probably meet again.
Yes, thank you. Benita had such a wonderful time.
Well, we were happy you came.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Your hat.
You? Oh, my gloves.
They're in your hat.
Oh, yes. Ronnie, I had a wonderful evening, and I'm terribly sorry about Wellington.
Wellington? What do you mean?
Well, I know how loyal you are to your friends, but I think it's awful the way one man can put a damper on a whole party.
You know, Jack, there's a lot of truth in what you say.
Goodbye, Benita.
Good night.
Good night, Ronnie.
Good night, Jack.
I'm not out yet.
Oh, pardon me.
Well, goodbye, Ronnie.
Goodbye, Jack.
Goodbye. Good night. Can it be the breeze that fills? Good night, diary. Hello?
Jack? I just called to ask Rochester if I left my gloves there this afternoon. Didn't you go to the Colemans?
Well, of course I did.
Oh, what are you doing home so early?
Well, I thought it was the nice thing to do. You know, they were so tired.
Tired at 9:30?
9:30. They started yawning 10 minutes after I got there.
I'll bet you're in bed, too.
Of course I am. But I'm not going right to sleep. I'm going to read a while.
Well, what are you going to read?
Oh, I don't know. I might read Decline and Fall, or Burton's Anatomy of Melancholy. I understand it's quite amusing.
Jack, did you have a sip of brandy?
Brandy? Yes.
I thought so. Good night.
Good night.
Jack Benny's next television show will be in 2 weeks. Remember, 1 week from tonight on this same station, be sure and watch Ann Southern in Private Secretary.